So today we are joined by Paul Nixon, England cricketer, county cricketer, all round, sports enthusiast and performance guru, I guess. Paul, welcome on the podcast.
Phil, great to see you, mate. Nice to see them big muscles as strong as ever, mate.
So just a bit of context here. Me and Paul are from Cumbria. We are Cumbrian born and bred, and we've known each other for a long time. Paul went off and left the humble beginnings, which is something I think we're going to talk about, and went off and became a professional sports person, which back in the day was something that people just didn't really do. And you were somebody who broke away from that mold of kind of small town village kind of mentality, right? Which it was. So let's sort of backtrack straight away, Paul, and let's talk about how it all began. How did you end up becoming a professional sportsman?
Well, through a sportsman father, I think, Phil. We were very lucky as well in the little village that we grew up in, where we were close neighbours in effect of the little villages. Like I said, sports mad community, football, cricket, rugby. Just outside Penrith, a little village called Langwathby in the Lake District, where the local sports club was Carl United. The big sports club was Carl United, and my dream was to play football for Carl United, to be a blue and to be a fox. Instead, I've become a Leicester fox instead of a Carl United fox. So, sport was always in my blood. My father played and captained local club cricket for Penrith and Eden Hall, our local club. And as long as I can remember, I've had a ball in my hands, whether it's a football, a cricket ball, a golf ball, a rugby ball, and we loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Cool. So obviously along the way, there's opportunities kind of open doors, right? And especially when you're from a small town, small village, school wide and things like this, particularly with cricket, it was always, it was to do with the schools you went to and how you got into that initial sort of setup. And obviously you made your Cumberland debut, I think, was it in 1987?
Yeah, 86, 87. Yeah, when I was 16, 17. So, I was fortunate really that Cumbria Schools Cricket Association is very strong and passionate people behind that. And they pushed me well. And I was playing sort of Cumbria, I think, under 13s when I was 10. And then I was playing under 15s a year young, and then fortunately north of England schools, and got an opportunity through that way to go on the MCC Young Professionals, the Lord's ground staff. In the meantime, I played a few games for Cumberland and the minor counties. I actually played a 2-day game that was all over at 5 o'clock the first day. Stuart Turner, for Essex cricketer, got all 10 wickets, got 10 wickets for something like 11 runs off 12 overs. It was bonkers.
And I'm assuming you were on the wrong side there, were you?
I certainly was. I was his 10th man out. I was the last man out. I was about 6. I think I got top score, or second top score was 6, I think. And I went back to pull one. It never left the ground. I hit my ankle. So LBW. So, fortunately for me, we had some great teachers at Ullswater High School, where I went to school. We had a guy called Rick Martin, who was very proactive for myself as a cricketer himself, and very passionate about the game, and he taught me a lot. We had Dickie Spruce, we had a lovely big indoor sports centre at school with the Dickie Spruce from Sportscraft of Penrith at the time, was the local sports shop that everybody has their local sports shop, who was a good wicket-keeping coach. And we had some good keepers around the local area that always helped me. Luckily, my dad, being a farmer, had the time and effort and energy to take me to every coaching session, whether it was football, cricket, you name it, we went there. And unfortunately, my cricket was always ahead of everything else, and was more natural, instinctive for me. So cricket was my journey, and I loved it.
And I'm assuming, well, I'm not assuming, I actually know, but you were a very good footballer as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was quite a big lad at my age. I was sort of 5'10", 5'10" and a half at about 12 years old, 13. I was the big guy on a rugby pitch that took a bit of stopping. I always loved playing football. I was a big, tall lad, and I was a strong lad for my age, and then everybody else caught me up. I think my natural ball skills weren't top class enough for me, looking back now, to maybe go on another level. When I look at the likes of Stephen Harkness, who we grew up with, and other lads from Carl United. I played football for Penrith for a year or two, which was quite good. Bob Stokoe was our manager for a little while, which was amazing to meet the legendary Bob Stokoe, who took Sunderland to the final of the FA Cup and won it. So yeah, you know, football was always there, but actually I knew that my cricket was always a couple of years ahead of my football. And yeah, I was very proud to captain the county football, rugby and cricket at sort of under 15 level. I loved my cross country, and I had a good work ethic from the farm, which was instilled at a young age. Always looking for things to do. There's always something to do on a farm, and I think that resonates well with sport. There's always something to do and a line to get over.
And I think that's something that's always resonated with me about you, and that's that work ethic, that, you know, that just constant grafting with whatever you did. You know, I always recall talking to you years and years and years ago about it, and you know, you referred to all the things that you were doing at that particular time with respect to your performance and all these things that you were, you know, you always seemed to be trying new things and things that other people weren't really, that, you know, almost paving this sort of mantle of you know, what you need to do to perform at that level. And fitness was always a big thing, right? You know, and being a keeper, I guess fitness was pushed even more, right? Because you're actively playing the game all of the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As a keeper, generally in a county championship match, well, a day you're doing, when I started, it was 110 overs a day. So that's 660 squats to start with, as well as the running in between, as well as the the run outs, the batting. So you generally were doing about 2,000 to 2,500 squats a week, plus about 4.5, 5Ks a day of sprints. So yeah, it adds up. I've had, you know, I've just turned 50 now, and I've had 5 knee operations, 3 on my right leg, 2 on my left. I've got the knees of a 68-year-old man, but nothing that a bit of Pilates doesn't help, and a bit of ice and a convex machine now and then, and a bit of massage and a pulse roller, or you name it, we'll try it. But that's how it has to be, I think, in sport. I think in the 80s when I started, and I was lucky to play in the 80s, the 90s, 2000 to 2011. You know, I wanted to make sure that I went through my whole career and I'd given it everything. I tried everything. You know, I looked at all the statistics. I saw how fit other people were, whether that was football or rugby. When I came down here, I met the Leicester Tigers rugby lads, from the Austin Healeys to the Martin Johnsons, Martin Currys, Pat Howards. And those guys, I actually lived next to John Wells, one of the coaches there for quite a while. And his son Tom was one of our young cricketers a little while ago. So I got rugby fit. I got training a lot with the Tigers lads. I saw their performance and their perfectionist ideals, and how they went about their business, how driven they were. That inspired me a lot. And you know, I just wanted to make sure that I was as consistent as I could be at a top level. And you know, the Tigers taught me a lot in the early days.
And they were a hell of a team back then, weren't they? In that sort of era, that was a huge era for Leicester Tigers, wasn't it? And I remember Austin particularly, he took his fitness very, very seriously, didn't he? He was kind of this really interesting character off the field, wasn't he? And you know, carried that over post career, but was somebody who took their fitness very, very seriously, didn't he?
Yeah, and still now, you know, he's always on his watt bikes and pelotons and all those various things there is out there. Yeah, the guys, you know, you see a difference when you feel good about yourself mentally. You know, you've done what you can. I think that's really important. The mental side of the game is as important as the physical, and sometimes it is very easily to get carried away with your fitness. And if I look back now, yes, I was fit, but was I? I think now, because of, you know, at the time I thought I was as fit and as conditioned as I could be. I was eating for the next 3 hours, whatever I was doing, whether it was getting up through the night and having protein and recovery shakes, to ice baths in the 1980s that just didn't happen really. Guys thought I was crazy. You know, they were having drinks brought out and I was having protein drinks or energy drinks. Yeah. And yeah, you know, and getting extra massage and buying my own kit to try and look after my body, because I knew how much I loved it, and I knew one day it was going to come to an end, and I wanted to make sure that I had the longevity and you know, I couldn't be complacent in anything I did. I just had to make sure that I was driven and, you know, and daring.
No, I remember I remember you, I can't remember what company it was, but you had loads of sports supplements and all manner of things that at the time were sort of this real, not necessarily a grey area, but there was sort of thing that cricketers just didn't do, right? You know, it was sort of it was a lazy man's sport almost, or regarded as one, right? It was like playing darts or something like that. It was something where it was, you know, you switch on, you switch off. But obviously just for the listeners that don't, you know, sort of understand cricket quite as much, but being a wicketkeeper, you're switched on pretty much the entire time, right? So you're talking several days of you focusing, concentrating, and obviously when you're not doing that, you've got other roles where you might be batting, you might be, you know, waiting to bat. You know, you were captain in 2007. You became captain of Leicester. Is that right,
Yeah,
Leicestershire?
that's right. Yeah. So yeah, cricket. We've basically got sort of 3 formats at the moment. There's 4-day cricket, which is 2 innings each team. Which obviously 4 days is a mental, you know, it's an absolute marathon really. And then you've got a 50-over cricket. So 50-over cricket all day. One team bats for sort of 3¼ hours, 3.5 hours, and the other team bats for 3.5 hours. So then there's the 2020, which is a bit more publicised. It's like the fast food of our game, which is an hour and a quarter. One team smashes it, hour and a quarter, the other team tries to get it. And there's various, you know, various rules of fielding restrictions where so many people have to be close to the bat and so many people have to be away from the bat within a circle, a 30-meter circle. So there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot goes into it. You know, the guys, you know, we've got at Leicestershire, we have a squad of 21. We're going to have a couple of overseas players for each format. You know, we have 2 full-time analysis guys. We go down the Moneyball route. We've got a specialist guy called Dan Weston, who's our Moneyball guy, that we look at special recruitment. He's got algorithms on computers to find out the next best kids off the block, or guys at other clubs who haven't had opportunity, who are hitting benchmarks within, you know, within the areas of boundary percentages, or they take somebody down, a left-arm bowler down or a right-arm bowler. So what we try and do is bring a jigsaw together of support for the players to maximize their performance, from specialist spin bowling coaches to swing to bowling coaches to batting coaches, different surfaces we play on, different surfaces to practice on, to psychologists, strength and conditioning coaches, physiotherapists. So it's a real, you know, we've got about, under our whole umbrella, we've got about 30 odd coaches now. Wow. And it's yeah, and we're a small club compared to the test match ground where the internationals are played.
That's crazy. So obviously there's the physical demand, right, which everybody understands. You know, it's a skill-based sport largely, so people are thinking, you know, these guys are just skilled and that's it. But then there's these massive physical demands, but also these enormous mental demands, right? Because I see it much like, you know, cycling, and I remember when Boardman, you know, for the people who follow cycling, Boardman was kind of the person in cycling who, certainly in GB, who started to embrace technology, right? You started looking at metrics, data, started analyzing these sort of things, started looking at all of this technology behind things, and also started to look at sports nutrition and started to look at it in this different light. And I remember there was this, you know, there was this scandal of him pouring this white powder into one of his drinks before a race. And this was during the time when there was all this drug scandal within cycling. So people were like, you know, what is this? And he was putting creatine into one of his drinks. Yep. And there was this whole scandal about it. And cycling in that respect is, you've got sprint cycling, and then you've got time trials, and then you've got obviously the long distance stuff. And cricket is very much like that now, right? You've got these specialist players who just specialize into one particular game, and then you've got these guys who can kind of slog it out and see it out for 3 or 4 days. So in amongst that, I always remember you were sort of renowned for your shorter games. So which was your specialist?
Yeah, I mean, I always loved the long format. I wanted to play for England, playing the long format. That was my dream and my ambition. And I ended up playing the short format. So I think I went with the times. And, you know, in the long format, generally, it's to produce England players and play test matches and play for England. That's why we play county cricket. And it's a very special, unique game that 18 counties play over 6 months of the year. So it's a real marathon, ultra marathon. and we've tinkered with the leagues. Now there's 3 divisions. You play 10 games, and then what happens is the top 2 teams against that then go down into the next level, and the next level go to the next level. So 3 divisions are going to be formed moving forward as well. So it's a fascinating one. T20 cricket is something that Leicester really embraced as a club. We were very successful in the first 5 years. We were in 4 finals, and we're the only team that's won it 3 times. And some of the things that we did in our first win in like 2000, 2004, we still do now. And things that I've taken around the world when I've coached in the Caribbean Premier League, which I've won a couple of times, and the Bangladesh Premier League I was in this time last year, which we were in the quarterfinals. We just got beat by an amazing innings by a freak of a guy. But yeah, you know, it's the shorter format is real fun, big crowds, it's accessible to people, and the demand, it's much more of a dynamic game. So much more sprints, much more high level running. Performance is really monitored with a lot of GPS. Some of our guys actually in the one-day format I run 27, 28 Ks whilst they're fielding. So you know, that's a lot of running in just in an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, I was about to say that, because obviously you know, back in the, you know, in the 80s, 90s, where you were saying about how much you would move during a game, right? You know, how many times you'll be up and down, and, you know, the amounts of squats and things like this. Obviously back then that kind of data wasn't available unless somebody sat down and actually watched a video of you the entire day and clocked it all up, right? Whereas now you've got players wearing GPS. You know, there's a huge amount of wearable tech that they're doing. So is this something that you've brought in, or is this something that the club had already brought in, or is this something that you've embraced and brought to the fray?
Yeah, well, certainly the guys that we look to employ, our strength and conditioning coaches, our head of sports science, I want guys who are coming in with that growth mindset, who are always looking to put their marker down and create a bit of a legacy, and make sure that, you know, everything they look at, there's no stone unturned. So we have to really be careful with our bowling workloads. So our bowlers who run in, jump up and land, you know, there's 4 or 5 times their body weight going through their front leg when they land. Now, if they're doing that, you know, 6 balls in an over, if they're doing that 25 overs for 2 days on the trot, then that's a lot of work. That's a massive amount of work and forces going through their body. So this time of year for us now is getting bowlers' workloads monitored and just built up. So there's a nice consistency that by the time the season starts in April and our pre-season games in March, they're ready to go. So we can't go straight in and batter them too hard, otherwise there'll be too many stress fractures. Like wicket keepers in that squat position, their knees, they've got to make sure that if they're doing up to 1,000 squats a day whilst keeping wicket and running, they've got to make sure that, you know, their strength levels are good enough to be comfortable in that. So they've got to be lifting 2.5 times their own body weight. Athletically, we've got sprint coaches who come in. The guys are in at 8:30 till 9 o'clock, 9:15, with sprint coaches in the mornings doing their sprint drills. Something that we've tried to really embrace, and we've got to try to change the culture. At Leicestershire was a little bit in the dumps. We lost sort of 2010, 2011, 2012. I left 2011. I played my last game then in T20 finals day. We lost a lot of players, a lot of seniority. So the next coaches that came in after that, they went for quite a short-term fix and got a lot of older senior players. And maybe some of those senior players were just getting over the hill of their prime. So we had to do it. When I came, I had to look at that and reevaluate. And it was time to get our foundations right. Our foundations weren't strong enough from our academy to, you know, we had a very proud pedigree of bringing our own players on. And I think that's really important, having your own, a bit like Alex Ferguson did with a class of 96, 86, was it? 96. The guys came through together, 6 or 7, and that's what we try to do now. We've got a youngster, average age 23. We've got a new academy director. We've got some really top-class coaches who've had a lot of good experience in the game as well. The likes of Philip de Freitas, who's played 100 times for England. Paul Johnston, who was at Notts for many, many years, a wonderful batsman. So, I've got Tom Smith now, assistant coach, who was an ex-Lancashire captain, all-rounder, so he knows batting and bowling. He's our bowling coach.
Yep.
So we've got a young coaching group, and a coaching group who are still keen to learn as well and go on the journey with the players. So we've got a very young club, and we work a lot with our profiling, our personal profiling. I'm really into the personal profiling. So we use a company called Inner Matrix, who are world class, and yes, it's based on the disc profile, but so much more about values, about subconscious thinking, about decision making. And we spent a lot of time in lockdown working with our own coaching group about the various areas of visions, of communications, our strategy to get that right, leaderships, values, and strategic planning and team awareness. So we're always looking to improve, and we've got that in abundance. I've learned so much about our players and our management staff from the Inner Matrix personal profiling, because some people like detail and systems, and some people like just getting the job done with energy. We're all very different. We've got to make sure that we understand each other on a deeper level, so that the bus goes faster, and that's what it's about.
Amazing. So we talk about living on form. We talk about, how someone, engages all of this mentality into their day-to-day stuff. And obviously we're talking a lot about metrics. We're talking a lot about statistics. We're talking about the psychology of people. We're talking about mindset, all these different things. But I think people will be interested to see what is a day like for Paul Nixon, whether this was when you were a player. I've got a feeling that it's probably not that much different to when you were a player. I could be wrong here.
Yeah, I mean, as a player, it's all about you, ultimately. And yes, you give to your team, of course you do, but ultimately it's performance-based, and you get hired and fired by your statistics and your KPIs, because it's a results-driven business. We're professional sport. It's about winning. So there's a brutality in that, but as a coach, it's all about everybody else. It's all about managing up and managing down. So, my days are very different now to they are in the season, obviously. As a player, it was about preparation for the next day, setting your goals about what you want to achieve in the summer, how many runs, how many dismissals, not being injured. That's crucial. So injury prevention is enormous. Fitness is enormous. So managing, ultimately, as a player, you're the managing director of your own company.
Yeah.
And you have to be all encompassing. When I started, there wasn't the support that there is nowadays, from the Professional Cricket Association, who've got welfare coaches and advisors that come and support the players, to we've got a fantastic new chief exec and board, and a chairman who's one of the first female chairman. So we're a very dynamic club in effect, and so for me as a player, it was all about me and what I was going to do, and very selfish and blinkers. And when I give to the team, of course I give to the team and helping my guys. When I'm done, I help other guys. But as a coach now, it's about sitting back and having an overview of how you can support your own staff, challenge your own staff, know your own staff, but also make a difference to the players and have them to be as authentic as they can in their areas of their life, from when they're playing the game to when they're not playing the game, so they're all right and they're healthy and they're well and they're in a good place. So there's a lot of systems that need put in place. Now it's about systems and structure. Our guys, we've got a lot on the disc profile. We've got a lot of guys who are sort of S's and C's on the disc profile. So they like detail, they like clarity, they like systems, they're very stable, they're very analytical. So, which I'm generally not. I'm a bit more daring and gregarious and sociable and persuasive. So I've had to change my learning styles for our team. So, and we've even tweaked some of our meetings because the way people are profiled. The guys that like detail can have the long part of the meeting. And when we're about done, the other guys come in the meeting. We give them a synopsis of what it's all about. And if they want any more, they can come and speak to us. But generally, they're quite happy with that.
That's really interesting, even from a business perspective. I mean, for
Yeah.
those guys that don't know, DISC is kind of it's a personality profiling, directing, influencing, steady and cautious, if I recall. And it's kind of broad overview, but obviously people they grade people on a different level on each one, don't they? And obviously S&Cs are all about the detail. They're the sort of people who buy an iPhone and read the instructions, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then the Ds are sort of the energy. They're the sort of I would say they've got the machine gun and they're firing bullets everywhere, and they're going to make mistakes, but actually they're the energizers of the team, and they come in and they say, you know, Nico, morning, you bald git, how you doing? You all right? What's happening? You know, what's happening the weekend? You know, full of fun, full of energy, vitality, you know, and they're determined and they drive that team. And the eyes, they're the people. They're the chatters. I'm, as you probably know, I'm high I, so those guys are, you know, sociable.
I'd have never guessed.
They like to be charming. They like to be inspiring. Doesn't always happen. And then the S's, they're the guys, the red guys who are very predictable, very consistent people. They like systems, you know, they'll fire one or two bullets. They like to take their time. And then there's obviously the C on the disc, which is they're the snipers. They've waited. Don't get me wrong, and everybody needs everybody. They've waited. The snipers are taking their shot. They're taking an extra long time to take their shot because they want detail. They're going to read every last bit of that 78-page document about their inner matrix profile. They're going to read every detail about before they tick a box on a computer to say, yes, I will, or an app or whatever it may be.
Read the small print, right?
They're very cautious. Sometimes they work from a position of fear because they don't want to get it wrong. But what they're good at is they see detail. So if I do something quickly, which I like to do things quite quickly, then I will speak to my physio. He's as higher C as it gets, and he's a brilliant man for me to make sure that I've done it correctly. And if I haven't done it correctly, he'll say, Nico, that's not quite right. I'd change that around, or what about that? And I'd say, Will, thank you very much. That's amazing. So, you know, the eyes, the sniper who's going to take one shot needs cover from the guy who's, you know, who's got the machine gun getting the opposition. So he's creating time for him. So we all need everybody. And I've loved it because it sees people in their true selves. Yes, we can all go up and down. Of course we can. We can all have detail. We can all be a machine gun.
And that's a situational thing, right?
Absolutely. And the skill is, and the experience comes of knowing that. But it's also knowing your players. You know, we've got 21 players. So we have a lot of calls in this time of COVID time where we've got smaller groups. We've had to change everything, normally all in together. Now, you know, in the summer, we couldn't use our indoor school. That was out of bounds. We had only so many nets in the outdoor nets. So now we're having small groups. We have groups of 8. They're split in half again. So we've got 4 in the indoor centre doing cricket, and the other guys are with the S&C indoors upstairs in the gym. So doing, you know, individual performance programs. So yes, they do an athletic performance in the morning with the sprint coaches. But then as soon as that's finished, the half-an-hour session's finished, then we split into the 2 groups, and they go in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then another group comes in Tuesday, Thursday, Friday as well. So it's much more longer days for coaches, but that's great. You know, I'm up early. I generally take the dog for a walk at sort of 6 o'clock in the morning. I then do a Pilates session with my wife, Jen. We do a bit of Pilates. It's fantastic for me now to do that for my body.
Is that machine Pilates, or are you doing mat work? Or
no? Well, we have a lady, Ruth, who comes into the club and does Pilates. So do a lot of Ruth sessions on YouTube, or there's a lot of different ones on YouTube which we use. So I'm conscious that I work long hours. My work-life balance isn't amazing for family life, purely because I love my job so much and I'm driven to succeed. Jen, my wife, is amazing because she's always been there and looks after me well and knows that how passionate I am. But you know, I'm conscious that any downtime that I can get with a family, I have to grab it. And if it's early mornings, a walk with the dog together, and then a Pilates session together is fantastic. Isabel, I've got a young daughter who's 11, who's netball mad, wants to play netball for England. She's had a ball in her hands since she was like we were when we were kids. You know, I spend a lot of time with Izzy as much as I can playing netball in the garden. We've actually got an artificial back garden now rather than grass because some of it's been worn away. So
all season,
which is lovely, yeah. So it's, you know, our days are very different. You know, from playing to coaching. Coaching's making sure our systems are right, making sure that we're well planned as a management group. Our guys need to be. The more time they've got to make decisions and plan and be calm and have a clear mind, the better they are. So my downside is I want things done now because it's about time for me. Everybody wants your time as a head coach. So managing up and managing down. So, you know, having time with everybody's crucial from our sports psych, knowing what's happening with not knowing what's happening with the players, but if there's anything that he can guide me with on the players, obviously we have to be, you know, we have to make sure that we look after players' welfare. So if there's anything that he can guide me with on the field or off the field, which is great. Players have got, you know, they've all got KPIs to meet and hit. We have stop, start, continue models that we use for players at the end of seasons. We have appraisals, obviously, that we have to do as well now, as in the working life, as people do in the work. In the commuter world, you know, we've never done those before. Only the last 3, 4, 5 years that's been taking place. So that takes a lot of time and preparing. So, you know, we do various things. There's a lot of stuff we do. It's just making sure that the players ultimately walk away from cricket, been inspired, been challenged, high support, making sure that they're having fun and there's a nice vibe in the camp. We try and get off site as much as we can because we're in a big indoor centre. So we want to try and take our guys out. We use Leicester City Football Club. We go and play football up there. We use their indoor centre for fielding and for sprint drills, long sprint drills. We use Loughborough University. So the more we can go elsewhere. If we can go off site, it gets people out of the same four walls. Doesn't matter whether you're in professional sport or you're in the office. The more we can get out into Bradgate Park and do team drills out there, or bring in wonderful people from the SAS to come and chat to us or inspire us, or Martin Johnston, who's been to chat to the lads before. Obviously, COVID's changed that a little bit with what we can do. We try and go down the Tigers, the basketball. Leicester Riders are a good basketball side and very well led on and off the field. A fantastic organisation. Kevin Ratledge has got down there. So, you know, we want to be inclusive as a sports club in the city as well. So there's school visits to do. There's chat in Leicester and Rutland cricket. We have to, you know, it's important that we're selfless for those guys as well. Coach education, we help local coaches. So there's a lot goes on, and it's you know, time's valuable, and it's making sure that we get progression with whatever we're doing with our time.
It sounds like a complicated and hell of a impressive setup, and I think it's important for people to grasp the what goes behind professional sport. I think so many people look at professional sport and just think it's a bunch of talented people on a field doing what they're doing. And obviously, from a coaching perspective, you know, from a player's perspective, it's slightly different. But from a coaching perspective, getting an insight into the things that you're talking about there is, you know, it's incredible to understand the thought process that goes into this. You know, matching people up based on personalities, making sure the right people are with the right other people, right? So you put them in these small groups and making sure that dynamic's right, and you're pulling any negativity away from there. You've got the right mindset, etc., etc. And how have you learned all this? So, you know, as a player, did you develop this leadership kind of mentality as you went along, or was this something, do you think, you always had? Is it something that you've developed and then refined and honed? Because that's a big ask to ask a former player to come in and basically go, look, you're going to run and operate everything in many respects, right?
Yeah, certainly cricket side. I think, but what I did, Phil, was I've always enjoyed helping people and supporting people when I played. So, and I think that's a senior player's role in a team, or a senior person in a business. It's their responsibility to help manage other people as well. So as a player, I always enjoyed supporting and talking and asking questions. Away from cricket, I always enjoyed being around people who were successful. A lot of our sponsors, I always enjoyed going to sponsors' dinners, meeting people, chatting to people. Why was somebody driving a Ferrari and a Lamborghini and somebody not? And I always enjoyed that side of it. I always enjoyed what made people successful. What was their passion? I was quite shy when I was younger, but actually going away from Cumbria
Actually
to
find
London.
that quite hard to believe.
Yeah, I was, and now I do quite a bit of public speaking, and I'm at peace now with it all, and because we're all the same. I've traveled the world many times. We're all the same. We've all got the same concerns, the same issues, and it's about getting on with it and fronting up and being honest and straight and open. And the more you can be that way, the more people gravitate towards you and be open with you. And I always enjoyed that. I always knew that cricket has given me everything. It's educated me properly. It's taught me so much, and it's full of good people. Cricket it really is, and it's you can't just go and do it. You have to learn how to be a coach. I had to go away and do my coaching badges. I've done the 3 out of 4. Level 4 is a couple of year coach now, which is like a degree. So it's a big ask at the moment. I haven't probably quite got the time to do that yet, where we are as a club. But it's something that down the line, I might look at doing it. So I've got guys around me who've got their level 4, which obviously helps in different areas. I think having the international experience that I've had gives me that little bit extra in other areas as well. So ultimately to learn about new strategies and how to communicate well, I think they're the key things: getting good processes in place and communicating well. And I've always tried to keep learning. I'm close to Stuart Lancaster. I speak to Stuart Lancaster as much as I can, who obviously grew up in the next door village to us. So I've always gotten well with Lank, and he's very open arms to supporting me as well, which is great. So it's great. There's always something out there to learn and to grab and to look into and challenge yourself with. But our mantra at Leicestershire is that we want to be the hardest working, most caring cricket environment. So, and I think we have that. We didn't have it a couple of years ago. I think we're there now. Our players are in a really good place physically, and it's certainly a care environment. I give the lads an extra week off at Christmas. They're coming back on the 11th, so that they can have a good Christmas, get back on their fitness again after a break, and we go hard again for the next phase up till half term.
Amazing. So, give us an insight into an average. Obviously, with cricket, there's so many different roles within a team, right? I always remember with rugby, it used to get boxed off in that the forwards did this particular type of training and fitness training, and the backs did another one. And it was just that, it wasn't specific to individuals, and it wasn't specific to players. And by the sound of, what you've done at Leicestershire is that you've gone, look, everyone is this individual, which is a phrase you used before, right? Is that everyone's an individual, so everybody needs to be treated slightly different, all right the way down to how you actually verbalize things to them, or how you facilitate that movement in a certain direction. So, and again, I'm saying an average player. So what would an average day look like for a professional cricketer in today's day and age?
The average days, the lads would be in at 8:30 or be in at the ground by about 8:15, ready for an 8:30 session. They'll do their prehab warm-ups, their own personal prehab warm-up before they do a gentle warm-up with the S&C. Alex will take them for that. And then they'll do 30 minutes of sprint drills, various, all of this will be filmed. Everything will be filmed. So one of our analysis guys will be filming it all. They'll be going through gates. They'll be from all the various types of bands they'll be using to.
And are they wearing tech here whilst they're doing this?
Yeah.
So they're all wearing stuff.
Yeah. They'll have tech on. So that's a 30 minutes. They'll break into 2 groups. The bowlers, we generally do it in 4. So the 2 bowlers and 2 batsmen. So Tom Smith will take the 2 bowlers in our indoor centre. We've got 3 lanes in our indoor centre. So the bowlers will be with Tom, and the batsmen will be with myself and a guy called Dips Patel, who's our second team coach, local lad. Was a second team player, didn't quite make it in the first team. Fantastic coach, just passed his level 4 this year, very driven young coach. So wonderful to have him with us. We'll then sit down with the batsmen, speak to the batsmen about what they want to go, what they want to work on. They've all had appraisals at the end of last season, and all had their targets for what they want to achieve this winter, what they want to tick off their list as far as we've sat down and looked at their boundary percentages, looked at how many times they got out in certain areas, and just fine tune their game they know their strengths, and it's about their development areas. Where do they lift those development areas? So we have very strong conversations at the end of the year, and we then put a performance plan in place for every single individual, how to get them to where they want to be by the time the season comes around. So that's the first session is almost a trying new things. So at the end of the last couple of weeks has been guys trying new things. No pressure whatsoever. It's been a nice, not relaxed sessions, but you're just grooving again. No real pressure. No real what's the right word? No real. I'm trying to think of the right word. I've forgotten the word now. Beginning with C. No pressure training in effect. So we're not going to give them too much stress about mucking up. They're going to try new things and just
see how it goes.
Express themselves and be trying new. So try new things and and get a bit of volume. Hit some balls, get a bit of volume. But then now, as we're coming into this new part of the year, phase 2, it's much more about consequences. It's much more about batsmen v bowlers, and try and get them into a bit more of a fight mentality in their practice. So again, it's fine-tuning techniques. A lot with good players, good sportsmen have very good mental routines, physical routines and mental routines, so that there's no clutter comes in our brain at point of release. And imagine somebody's just going to bowl a cricket ball at you, which is like a rock hard brick that is from 22 yards away, that takes 0.2 of a second before it hits you. And if you're thinking too much, you're going to get hit, because your brain's slow when it's thinking. So if you've got clutter coming into your brain about, is he going to bounce me? Is he going to bowl me a full ball? Is he going to bowl me a wide one? What if I get out? What if I edge it? What if I miss it? All the what ifs that come into our brain and clutter us, they make us slow. It's like writing with your wrong hand. You've got to think about it. It's slower and not as natural.
So how do you work on that? So just to draw on that, how do you work on
that? So a routine would be, my own physical routine, mental routine was 2 taps to the ground. When the bowler was coming in, 2 taps to the ground, my bat on my back hip, and I'd say to myself, watch the ball play straight, watch the ball play straight, watch the ball play straight. As the bowler got into his delivery, as to his jump to the umpire, I'd count to 3. 1 is my back lift going up. 2 is my back foot going back and across in a pre-ball movement, and almost like a tennis player's jump.
Yeah.
So it's almost before you're going to get a serve. So it's 1 bat up, 2 back and across, 3 touch my front foot down, and then it's instinct. So watch my ball play straight, watch the ball play straight. 1, 2, 3, play. Then
so I'm going to take that back right now. I'm going to draw that back. So you've got this sequence, right, of things you do.
Yeah.
And in cricket, you see this all the time about people, they tap their nose and scratch themselves, and they have these sequences. Is this something that you developed, or is this something that later on in your career you just realized you did?
I think everybody's got superstitions and habits and rituals that they do, but the very best understand why they do it, and embrace it and go with what works for you. Some people like to count. Glenn McGrath, who was a bowler for Australia, one of the world's greatest bowlers, he was an ordinary run-of-the-mill bowler, because he'd run in, he'd think, I want to hit the top of off stump, he'd run in and bowl, and as he jumped up, a little man in his head would go, bowl him a banter, bowl him a Yorker, bowl him a slow ball. All these things that cluttered him from doing it, and he'd miss his mark and get upset with himself and go for runs and wouldn't be a high-class bowler.
It'd almost be like a momentary second guess, right?
Exactly. So all of a sudden, by having a routine of him, he counted his strides when he ran in. So when he counted his strides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, nothing, no clutter can come in his mind, and you're only working on what you want to do. There's nothing else comes in to kick you off that. So it's like a penalty. It's like a penalty taker. The greatest penalty takers that would be more successful would be the ones that go, right, I'm going bottom left, I'm hitting it bottom left regardless. Right, 4 strides in, hit it hard. If you miss when you go, put it down, right, I think I'll go bottom left. Actually, no, he saved that one last week, bottom left. I maybe should go bottom right. Yeah, but bottom right's not my main one. I think I should maybe, should I go top left? Then you miss. And it's
so. Have you dealt with this? So have you dealt with this yourself?
Yeah.
That routine's got cluttered, or there's been something on your mind? Because I remember we used to work with a performance, I guess performance analysts, you would have classed them as, and they were doing a lot of work with Arsenal Football Club at the time, and there was some metrics that came up about one of the players, and it was actually to do with blood work, and it was because the blood work had been disrupted. They said, look, one of your players is stressed, and what had actually occurred, it was a press thing, it was a publicity thing that had gone wrong, and there was basically he was feeling stressed because of this, and they actually told him not to play. He ended up playing, and he got injured because these markers were up in his blood, and it was this really fascinating thing that had been through, but it was down to this whole analysis of what that particular person was going through at that particular time. And you touched on it before, especially with like the disc stuff, is that you've got to understand mentally where your players are at that particular time. So if they've got stuff going on at home, or they've got stuff going on outside of cricket, is that something that you feel then comes in and clutters? And is that something that you're trying to create this open line of communication with your players to go, look, if there's an issue, we need to know about it, because ultimately that's going to affect your performance, right?
100%. We have our daily app that we click onto, and that's got about sleep. It's got about how stressed you feel on a scale, all these various things that go straight to the physiotherapist and the head of sports science, and they'll then monitor that and bring that up to me. Or if there's any workloads that people feel that they've done too much workload, the lads always want to play football in a warm up and have a bit of fun, but actually at the right time we can have extra fun. Of course we can, but we've got to make sure that everything's monitored, because it's a marathon. We're doing a marathon, and all these things. There's a little bit of trial and error at the start, but we now know where we are with our players. Our players feel massively supported, and our open lines of communication are crucial, and that's from the youngest player to the oldest player. We try and have a lot of values, a bit like the All Blacks, where it's a very open and engaging environment, and the youngest to the oldest can stand up and talk about anything whenever he wants. So that's crucial to have that. We don't have any egos. I'm not interested in egos. Yes, we want successful sportsmen, of course we do, but we don't want egos that are going to harm other people, because it's about the unit, it's about the team.
And this does happen, right, in professional sport, is that you get one standout player who is that ego. And it's even getting to the stage now where here in professional sports of people actually getting rid of very good players. And you hear about it in business, right? In business, it's a big thing now, is that if you have somebody who doesn't culturally fit, irrespective of how good they are at the job, it's time to get rid of them, because they will damage the team, element. Have you experienced that? You're allowed to tell me if that's happened. Have you ever got rid of a player because of their cultural fit as such?
Yeah, there's some guys that, over the years there is obviously, and it's a really interesting one where people are, we're quite a young team. So with our guys, with average age of 23, we've got a senior player, Colin Ackerman, our captain, who's 27, 28 now, Colin, and Chris Wright is in his 30s, our senior bowler. The rest are 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So we're quite lucky. We've helped shape those guys coming in, but in previous teams, there's been big characters. I've been lucky not to have too many idiots, but some guys take a lot of energy, and it's about them even more so. But ultimately, if those guys, it's how that environment is. I'm only learning now from our environment that how our senior players reviewed, the ones we've let go, how that impacted on our younger guys feeling a little bit more like they've got a voice, and they've come out much more to the forefront and been, a lot more, a lot more daring with their mindset and their characters, which, you know, we ultimately want all our players to be authentic and be their authentic selves. And it's creating the atmosphere where they can be in professional sport, where there is a lot of pressure, there's a lot of media scrutiny. There is, you know, you don't perform, somebody else is going to do your job. We've got a pathway of kids of 250, 300 kids who are coming through with an academy coaching group. And, you know, there's a lot of, you know, professional sport, there's, you know, it's high odds that you don't make it. And we've got to make sure that we have, you know, our philosophy at the club is to bring our own on. We have to, you know, we want to make sure that we do it the right way from our foundations. And it's the cheapest way to do it as well for sports clubs, rather than bringing other players in, and flights around the world and various things, and
keeps the board happy.
Accommodation. Yeah, it all adds up. It all adds up for small clubs. Yeah, you know, but that makes it a great challenge to get your systems right, and to make sure that, you know, when I'm throwing, the guys are coming and doing their cricket, and I'm throwing balls for at the moment 45 minutes, 50 minutes per guy. You know, so physicality is quite tough. From 9 o'clock, I'm throwing balls from 9 till about 1 most days, or on a bowling machine, with them on a bowling machine, practicing certain things, whether it be routines, practicing new routines, practicing new pre-ball movements, you know, work on various shots. So, and then we always debrief. We debrief after every session. Players together will come together and chat. And the coaches will all come together about what we've learned over that particular session. We do, as a management group, we have a thing called CLAW, which we use at the end of every week, which C is our challenges, L is the lessons that we've learned, A is the actions, and W's are the wins. What were the wins? It's always nice to finish with what are the wins that we've had for the week, and then we'll plan down the line. Generally, we're planning about 3 or 4 weeks in advance, but obviously those plans can be fluid, as they have to be with COVID. So, you know, COVID now, everybody's in tier 4. So we're now just finding out now if we can have, I've got a new baseball coach, a baseball hitting coach coming in on the 11th of this month. Not quite this month yet, of January. So we're looking at baseball style and how the baseball postures and positions, foot placement, hips and shoulders, of how we can get extra hit done for T20 cricket for the one-day game. We've also got little computers that stick on the top of the cricketer's bat, which show their hand speed, how fast the bat's moving, how hard it's hit the ball, the distance the ball's gone. Yep. So almost like little GPSs for the cricket bats.
And is that embracing technology from baseball?
No, this is from new technology within cricket.
Okay.
So yeah. So we're embracing that, which is going to be fascinating to see, you know, who middles the ball, who middles it more consistently, who hits it the furthest, who hits it flat, who hits it high. Just see how we can just fine tune that just to get over the line. And if it makes a difference of a few percent to get over the line, or, you know, averages a player a few more runs or a few more sixes a year or fours a year, then it wins games.
Yeah, I remember when they brought baseball pitchers in. And baseball fielders, I guess you call baseball fielders.
Yeah, that's right.
And they brought them in because of the way they throw, because it's much more forgiving on the elbows and the shoulder. And at the time, cricketers were throwing in a really, really funky sort of way. You just threw how you naturally threw, right?
That's right. Very low elbow, very, very tucked in elbow, very low. It was almost for the West Indians, because they're the most athletic, used to throw really low. So we all did that and thought it was, you know, quite cool and throwing down there. But actually, Rexy rotator cuffs. All the old cricketers have all had bicep tendon injuries. In fact, I've pulled my bicep tendon from doing that for many years. So yeah, you know, it's about getting high and the L shape and getting a bit more sideways on. And yeah, so we embrace a lot. I was actually going to have the England baseball coach, fielding coach, to come and see us actually this last summer, but sadly it didn't happen because of COVID. We couldn't do it, but we'll look at that again down the line. So yeah, you know, it's about being specific in each area. It's about being specific from everything we do, from strategy to visions to communication, personal. Everything's got to be specific, and everything's got its own layers underneath it. It's, you know, letting everybody know about the layers underneath it as well. You know, especially our guys. Our guys want to know, they want to have knowledge. So the high D's and the high I's don't need that, but the S's and the C's need knowledge. And we've got a team of 75, 80% guys that like knowledge. So so that makes it a bit more challenging for me, but that's only a good thing. It makes me a better coach.
It's amazing. Honestly, the insight into what goes on behind the scenes is pretty incredible. I mean, I knew that because, you know, having you at the sort of head of all of this, that it would be there. Now, having spoken to you about it, and it's in far more depth than I ever kind of anticipated, which is, you know, it is something that we could probably talk for hours and hours and hours. But I'm gonna close this on a slightly lighter note, and I think it would be something that we couldn't miss. You were renowned in your career for I think you were phrased as banter. So tell me about that. And again, this plays right into that mindset thing that you were talking about, the distraction thing, right?
Absolutely. And that's what it is. You know, when it's elite sport and you're talking about world-class players on world-class batsmen on good surfaces, and the ball, a cricket ball is a brand new ball and it's rock hard and it swings and it's got a very proud seam. But as the game goes on, as bowlers get a bit tighter, they don't bowl as quick, the ball gets damaged and it doesn't swing as much and it's easier for the batsman. So, and good batsmen on flat pitches do well and score runs and average 40, 50. So you've got to take your chances when they come. So yeah, as a wicketkeeper, it was about challenging the batter mentally, you know. So I'll be in his ear talking, trying to get him relaxed or get him too pumped up, whichever it is for that particular player, and also trying to put him in the future or take him in the past. So when guys walk out to bat, we know how many times they've been LBW or how many times they've been caught behind, because our statistics guys, our stats guys will tell us everything. So we know that his last 2 innings he's just been caught behind for 5 or for 6 or 7. So we'll throw that in at him, and we'll be, you know, we want to earn people's respect. We don't have to be their best friends, but we want to earn their respect and be respected. And that's how I want our guys to play the game. I want us to play hard and be respected from playing hard. They don't have to be our friends, but we'll earn their respect by the way we play the game, by playing the game hard and straight and tough. And that's how I want us to be.
And I think that's something where it was often mistook, wasn't it? Is that when people talked about cricket and banter and sledging and all these different things, they forget about that there is an inherent strategy behind that, in that this is this game that is played on this such a, you know, really fine-tuned skill level that to distract someone for a moment or to make them second guess themselves or whatever it might be can be the difference between winning and losing a game, right? You know, and that psychological side of it in a game of rugby, it's very difficult to do that because it's fast, it's, you know, it's in the moment, and a lot of that people don't really, you know, they're never going to really rise to it or fall to it or whatever it might be. But in cricket, where somebody's got to be switched on and so focused about, you know, these minute, and again, anyone who's played cricket will get, you know, a grasp of the fact that the ball is very small, the bat is very small, and a minor deviation anyway is the difference between you being out or staying in and scoring a century, right? And I think all of these things play into, and I think it's important for people to understand the logic behind a lot of these things, and obviously all these strategies and all these things that you've brought into play, all this analytical stuff, all the psychological stuff, all these different things are all about, you know, human performance, right? We're looking at trying to refine these, you know, in your case, in Leicestershire's case, very young sort of players, and refining all these skills and making sure that they're nurtured into these incredible players further down the line, right?
Yeah, 100%. So that we do all these things, and then as we challenge performance in the practice area, then we put, you know, we put challenges on it, and we have, you know, the more, what I find with professional sportsmen, the more you make things competitive, the better it is. You know, we have challenging sessions where we might put heart rate monitors on the guys, and guys can bring in air horns, have fun, loud music, and we try and get the guys and shouting things at them, writing things down the floor, putting messages on the floor about whatever you want to write, as strong as it can be on the floor for each other. and see whose heart rate goes up. We'll turn the heating on full blast. All these various things that we try and do.
Sounds very military, very kind of, look, we're trying to, it's that thing of, look, you're trying to get someone's pulse moving, right? And ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to stay very zen and sort of, I'm staying calm and I'm in control of this moment, right?
Yeah. Who can have 30 balls batting against a machine on 80 miles an hour with one hand, and who can hit the highest percentage through this particular area? When it's all happening around them, there might even be people with poles hitting them on the back of the head or the back of the body, and they've got to focus and stay in the moment and stay in their routine, their physical routine and mental routine under pressure to win the trophy for the lads. And that's where we can have fun as well. We can have fun doing it as well. And I think that fun's a big part of sport. We play a sport because we love it. So yes, we can get carried away with human performance, but ultimately we've still got to, we still can create scenarios that are match scenarios and still have a little bit of fun where we can. I think that's really important.
Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. As I say, we could continue this conversation forever and a day. I'm sure there's so much we could get into more and more detail about, but thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Thanks for talking us through a lot of stuff that I guess it's not top secret anymore. I guess a lot of this stuff, it's what you do with it, right? Data's all well and good, but it's what you do with it ultimately in the end, right? Which is something that you're clearly doing very well. How are things looking now for the upcoming season? With COVID, with everything that's been going on, how is it looking for you guys?
Yeah, at the moment, we're in a good place. We're in a really good place. The guys have been COVID free, which has been lovely. We're looking now to work hard for the next few weeks. We've got to go to Desert Springs for a pre-season camp in Spain, in Almeria in Spain, on about the 8th of March, which we're looking forward to that. Fingers crossed we can do that. So we'll go out there, we'll play a lot of games out there and practice out there. There's cricket facilities out there, which is wonderful. Then we'll come back and have loads of games. We've got games penciled in already against Nottinghamshire, against Derbyshire, against Northants. Hopefully get Lincolnshire as well and minor counties. So by the time we come back, hopefully get some fine weather in March, and we start in early April. And we can't wait. We're in a good group. We're going to probably the toughest group on paper in the summer, which is great, of the three groups, the three divisions. And we'll be really looking forward to it. At the moment, we're still speaking to a couple of overseas professionals to come in and be with us and be our sort of stars, as it were. Yeah. So we're just speaking to those guys and their agents at the moment. So I'm speaking to those guys on a daily basis. Other agents coming in as well, obviously. So you never quite know. So there's a few plates spinning as well with agents.
Moneyball, as you say, right?
My phone was just ringing then. I think that was an agent then.
Was it?
Yeah. So we're keeping an eye out what's happening around the world with various cricket internationally, because next summer there's a busy international schedule, and we have to look at whose schedules. I don't like guys coming in and going out. Yeah. I want guys to be with us for as long a period as they can and be with our family for as long as they can. So I don't like guys coming in for 2 weeks, going out, somebody else coming in, and business class flights from around the world add up, and it's for families and everything. So that can end up being players. So we've got to make sure that we get the right people on the bus.
Amazing. Well, thank you once again, and look forward to seeing what the season holds for you, and hopefully learning more about what you've been doing with the players. Thanks for your time, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure.
Bye-bye.